coming to you. And subscribe, drop a comment down below, and share this video on social media. Today's top news stories: San Francisco has declared a state of emergency over the drug overdose and smash and grab crime surge. Nicholas Sandmann has settled a $275 million lawsuit with the Criminal News Network. 3 Florida residents have been charged for 2020 mail-in voter fraud. January 6 rioter has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Cartels flood the U.S. with deadly fentanyl pills. Mexico cops raid a Cancun underage sex motel. Democrats lock down states and innocent children over the Xi variant, preparing for the final communist variant. A black Alabama judge has been removed for highly unethical shaming or behavior, anti-white racism, bullying, and fat shaming. Jeff Bezos censors bad ratings of Xi Jinping book in China. Alleged Florida hacker has been charged with 75 child porn counts after search warrant for hacking. And the universe expands faster than calculations predict. So today you get to hear my theory of thermal relativity, which is my attempt to fill in the gaps of Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity through this really interesting concept of a thermal equilibrium between two stars, where the Earth is going to a lower energy state inside of a black hole. But let's see, what do we do? All right. In our top story here, one of our top stories here from today from Fox News, Florida, the Villagers resident has been accused of voter fraud in the 2020 election after DeSantis pledges to crack down. The 3 residents of the village were arrested on charges of voting more than once in the 2020 election. This was the thing that the Democrats said wasn't a big deal because they really wanted Donald Trump gone really bad. And then you had Mark Zuckerberg, who Donald Trump was trying to reform Section 230, break up big tech, because they've been censoring Republicans because they're partisan political hacks. And he gave that $500 million donation to do the private takeover of the county election offices in swing states. For instance, in Delaware County, they put one of these Zuckerbox ballot harvesting boxes every 4 square miles in Democrat areas in Delaware County. And then in the Republican areas, they put them every 11,000 square miles. they were supposed to approve these changes to the election procedures through the Help America Vote Act clearinghouse. There was a bunch of states that voluntarily signed on to this pact in 2002 that they said they were going to certify the election voting machines. They were going to have voter registration rolls that were up to date. And the states agreed to, if they were going to make any changes, they were going to put them through this clearinghouse. And they did not put the changes to the mail-in voting in the clearinghouse. There was several states that did the popular vote, and some of those states had dual electors, where the electors, the Senate, the state legislature, they voted for Donald Trump. And then the popular vote, there was questions with certain procedures like that they did not approve in time. In different states, there was different things, but it definitely is a fact that Donald Trump won by ballot harvesting because the margin was so thin and the ballot harvesting was so pervasive that it caused these ballot dumps. Now, we covered this in a story. If you want to get the full statistical analysis, I'm a software and computer engineer, and I did a 3-hour video where I went over the statistical evidence of how this happened. It's on the YouTube channel, was not deleted, was not considered election misinformation. And I went through it, and I believe that there were ballot harvesting dumps. It is clear and convincing that there were dumps from the Democrat cities where the Zucker boxes were, and that caused Joe Biden to win. And I think that the ballot harvesting is definitely mail-in voter fraud because Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook. Facebook has privileged information on its users. They can target them with targeted ads in a campaign to get their ballot. They can hit them with media online, and we got isolated through this COVID thing. And then Mark Zuckerberg was trying to prevent Trump from reforming Section 230 and breaking up big tech. So he took over the county election offices in the swing states, and then they switched to the mail-in voting. And there was a bunch of this stuff, like these people that voted twice. But I do not think that that was enough to swing the election, because there's just not enough of these people to explain the exponent difference in the statistical variation. So there's some statistical laws that were violated. You could see in my detailed analysis on YouTube that the exponent was different. And on TV, they were saying, oh no, there's no evidence of statistical fraud because the exponent wasn't different. But we went through the evidence and showed that the exponent was different. And it was more than likely because of, almost certainly, it was because of the ballot harvesting in these swing states. It was a razor-thin election. Ballot harvesting was what swung the election. Here in this next article from the New York Post, Capitol rioter Robert Palmer gets 5 years, harshest sentence yet. Quote, Your Honor, I'm really ashamed of what I did, end quote. Robert Palmer, 54, told the U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan through sobs on Friday when he was given the 63 months for attacking cops during the ... This gentleman deserves the sentence that he got for placating to the court, for apologizing for what he did. Well, did he actually assault the cops? Because what happened was that we've got video here, we're going to watch it, where this assumed FBI agent Ray Ebbs, R-A-Y space E-B-B-S. This guy starts assaulting the police. This guy was telling people to go inside of the Capitol. Wait, what are we doing? Let's just watch this video right now. Sorry, I got to bring up the video. Did not have the video ready to go. Apologize about that. January 6th. Okay, where are the videos? Damn. Oh, the video is not where it was supposed to be. If you'll just give me one more moment, I'm just looking through. Does appear as if it has moved. I got it right here. Apologize. So here we're going to see video of, here we can see the videos on the outside of the building. Let me make this go full screen. Do we have video, audio? There is no audio on this. This is security camera. Sorry. So there is no audio on this because this is security camera footage. And this is whenever the riot at the Capitol started. So I'm going to move it back to the beginning because we want to look at this because we're going to be making some claims here and we have to, oops. So what are we looking at? This is outside of the Capitol. So here we could see that the protesters are going in the door and that there's some police officers there. And these cops are just waltzing up. So let's look outside what happened with this dude, Ray Epps. All right, so here's the video of the outside right before this. Wait, is this? All right, now you're about to see this Ray Epps dude assaulting the police outside. Ray Epps was not charged by the FBI. Now here we're zooming in and we're going to see this guy. He's got a red cap right there. He is with the red cap over there, Mr. Ray Epps. Okay, so there's more on the video. Here is Mr. Epps the night before.
Back tomorrow. I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Let's go.
Okay, now let's watch another video of Mr. Epps.
In fact, tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go, I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Let's go!
So I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? No! Peacefully. Fed. Peacefully.
All right, so you heard it there. You heard the crowd saying that Mr. Epps here is a Fed. Is quite clear. This guy is a military dude. This guy is clearly telling the crowd to go into the U.S. Capitol. And whenever the crowd did go into the U.S. Capitol, then Mr. Epps here started to assault the U.S. Capitol police officers. And then at that point in time, a riot began. Let's look a little bit more at this riot to see whether or not this guy was justified hitting the cops. Because what the story is that the FBI set up this because they're not prosecuting Mr. Epps here. Mr. Epps was taken off of the list of people to prosecute. We know his name. We know who he was. We know that he was taken off of the list of people to prosecute. So let's look a little bit more.
Spread the word. As soon as the president's done speaking, we go to the Capitol. The Capitol's this direction. Start speaking. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word.
So here is the video of them breaking down the fence. There is Mr. Epps right there. You can clearly see every single place where the riot was Mr. Epps, the person who the crowd said was the Fed. So you sit here and tell me why on earth anyone would think that the FBI did not set this up. Because it's quite clear from the examination of the videos that there is an FBI agent there, or there is some sort of deep state person, some sort of military dude that people say is a federal agent, and the FBI is clearly not prosecuting this guy. So the logical conclusion must then therefore be that this guy worked for the FBI. So let's look at what this dude did. So he assaulted the cops. If he did that, he might have deserved what he got. But I don't think that he was not defending himself. It seems to me like the most probable thing that happened here to Mr. Palmer is that he was defending himself from the police, but I don't know exactly what he did, so I'm not going to make that claim here. It says Palmer was handed, or federal prosecutor said Palmer of large Florida was on the, quote, front lines, end quote, of the mob attempting to disrupt the certification of Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. So he was with Mr. Epps? That's what the world wants to know. Everybody wants to know whether or not he was with Mr. Epps, because it definitely looks like in the video. Can we see that?
In fact, tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go, I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol. Let me go Fed. This direction. Peacefully. Okay, folks, spread the word.
Oops. Sorry. Let's watch that one more time. We're looking to see for the rioter that was sentenced. Again, he's wearing that hoodie with the American flag on it. Okay, so I was unable to find this person in that particular video. So, but Mr. Epps should have been sentenced with this guy. There's no reason why Mr. Epps should not have been sentenced with this guy. They both deserve to fry. They gave us a bad name. They rioted in the Capitol. I personally had to face ostracism from my friend group for the actions that occurred that day, because people were very mad. They were all looking for a scapegoat, and I am the person with the YouTube channel that is saying the things that they don't want to hear. And so I became the target. So I'm not very happy with these guys. But the problem is that if you work with these prosecutors, if you tell them you're ashamed of what you did instead of, well, I'm not ashamed of what I did. I'm proud of what I did. I went down in history. You're not going down in history. I at least went down in history for that. And that we had a good reason to be there, because Mark Zuckerberg did, in fact, take over the county election offices, did not clear it through the clearinghouses set up in the Help America Vote Act in 2002, wherever they started certifying the voting machines. And so if he was defending himself from the cops and he serves this sentence, then he gets what he deserves for turning his back on us. At this point in time, given the level of evidence that we have that it was actually an inside job, it definitely appears like they were justified in their actions, but definitely was very embarrassing, and it should not have happened. But what I really want to know is, was Donald Trump made aware of it in advance? Because Donald Trump had put the National Guard on reserve. The National Guard offered to have extra troops at the U.S. Capitol. The FBI told the U.S. Capitol Police, who is headed by a BLM supporter. In fact, in Washington, D.C., BLM is a big thing because most of the population, the local population, is black. And there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of prostitution. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of cocaine, a lot of crack, a lot of hookahs. And so I want to know, they told Nancy Pelosi, the U.S. House Intel Committee, and the head of the U.S. Capitol Police turned the extra National Guard troops down. So what I want to know is, what did Donald Trump know and when did he know it about January 6th? Did Pelosi set him up? But the people who are running the January 6th investigation have absolutely zero interest in finding this out. They want to make Republicans look bad, like it was an insurrection. Let's watch a couple more of these videos here from that day. So here we could see that a window was broken and there's police outside of the window. This is right when the riot is starting. And There we go.
Do not go in there.
Did you see that interaction there?
All right. So what
Cops and supporters hosted.
So it definitely appears as if there's a bunch of dialogue here. It definitely appears as if
building, and on the left of me is.
I think that's all I wanted to show from that video. So that appears pretty clearly that the police were there. And then after that, the police went away. So here, let me clarify what happened. So what did we just watch? So the police were there, and then they got an order to pull out. So the speculation is, at that point in time, Nancy Pelosi told the police to stand down, or the head of the U.S. Capitol Police. Either they were called somewhere else. They should have left at least one police officer at the window, but they did not. I forget what this is going to show. I think it's going to show. Okay, so I think I watched the beginning video. I think it's in here. Let's watch a little bit of this video.
Where the fuck are they? Look, it's a PR war, okay? You have to understand it's an IO war. We can't lose the IO war. We're better than that.
This is the insurrection.
Information operation.
This is what an insurrection looks like. This dude's taking pictures of all the stuff. There is the QAnon shaman. So here's right before they were in, I think. There's that window that was broken out earlier. Now they're going through the window. All right, well, if you want to check that out, I'm going to let you do that later. I'm going to get back to the news over here. This next article from the New York Post. Nicholas Sandmann has reached a settlement with NBC in Covington Catholic High School controversy. Student Nicholas Sandmann announced on Twitter he reached a settlement with the NBC Universal over coverage of a confrontation in the 2019 March of Life in Washington, D.C. Also, China Joe Beijing Biden also, too, said that this dude was a white supreme pizza in his campaign video, or he implied it, pretty much said it. I mean, he was saying the dangers of white supremacy, and then he shows this guy's picture, and that's the same thing. I mean, the guy can... I don't really think that any reasonable person would say that he wasn't saying that this guy was a white supremacist, but this guy didn't even instigate the thing with this American Indian guy. This guy is just some innocent kid, and the other guy was getting in his face, and then they made it seem like it was Nick that was the aggressor, when it was really this Amerindian guy that was labeling him as a white supremacist, a white supreme pizza. And I think we need to see a lot more lawsuits where people are suing people over these false claims of racism, sexism, misogyny, because the woke people, as Elon Musk said on a podcast the other week, he said that the woke people are essentially our bullies who are utilizing this wokeness in order to conceal, to justify them being jerks to people. And that's my take on it too. That's the way I see with these people, is they have an enemy. This is the white man. This is the people who took the land from the American Indians and they enslaved Africa, and they were white supreme pizzas. They thought they were superior to other people because they had all those extra toppings. And you look into it, turns out to be complete BS. Half the slaves in the US were white. Black people owned slaves at a higher rate than white people. They also owned white slaves. There was about 1 million white slaves during the transatlantic period in Africa. Slavery was not unique to white people. The only thing that was unique to white people was that they were Christians and they thought it was immoral. And so they freed the slaves. And so the story should be that the white people were not racist and they freed the slaves. Instead, these people coming out of the public education system are idiots, and they think that the white people enslaved Africa and that it was only the white racist people fighting for the South. And the reality was that the people who wanted to keep slavery alive the most were black people. Black people owned slaves. The first registered slave owner in the United States of America was a black man who owned 2 white slaves and 1 black slave. Because people used to own slaves because they didn't have farm equipment and people used to die in the millions from famine. Because of that, they had to be slaves on farms producing food for the people in the cities because they needed each other. Both of them needed each other. And it was better to be a slave on the plantation than to starve to death. You know, this was the reality that these critical race theorists overlook because they're only looking at the negative stuff, because they're trying to paint the white people as bad because they want to paint capitalism as bad because they're Marxist. And so what they've done is they've created this racial alliance with the demon rats, or the Democrats. And so it's now the white people versus the non-whites and the white feminists. The white feminists are the feminists who put white women's issues above everybody else. They're out at the race riot, the Democrat race riots, with the black looter mob because they're protesting for equality. They want more money at work. They want a raise. So they're out at a Democrat race riot with a bunch of hood people looting the place, shooting people with guns, beating people up, and smashing cars and terrorizing the neighborhood. And they want to. The reason why they say that we're racist is because it was the Democrats who started the KKK because they owned slaves. They were the Dixiecrats. They were the people who had the Confederate flag. That was popular all the way up until the 80s. And then it became taboo. And then they were pushing abortion, so they started being feminists because they opposed women's suffrage. And then they lost so bad in the elections. Now that the women are voting, now they did a 180, and they went from being misogynist, racist, white supreme pizzas to now feminist, anti-racist, because they wanted to do this eugenics program. So they used to say abortion was a sin. It was murdering your baby because it's illegal in most of the world. And then they legalized abortion so they could do eugenics because they thought they were the master race. The Democrats, they were the white nationalists. They were the people that the Nazis modeled Nuremberg laws after. So they were trying to do eugenics programs to get the low-income people to do abortions. And so these people were the Democrats in particular were the scummy people who were the racist people. But now what they've done is they've put together this coalition of woke people that are anti-white racists, that blame white people for all the problems in the past. They make up a false version of history because the public schools suck so bad, because they don't have any competition. They got a guaranteed customer base. They got a teachers union that prevents them from firing the bad apple teachers. So they just cycle them around the schools. They shuffle them around and then pull the bad apples out of the closet every once in a while whenever they need a substitute teacher. You got Mrs. Appleby coming out of the closet like, "Hello, children. My name is Mrs. Appleby. And today we're going to learn about communism. There's this guy named Karl Marx, and he wrote this book called the Communist Manifesto. Now, the Bible is bad, but your kids are going to learn about communism today." And nobody says anything because everybody's like, all right, sure, yeah. Rich people got all the money. They must be bad, right? So what they've done is they've demonized the white people. They've said that people like Mr. Sandman over here are the ones who are the white supreme pizzas. And then in reality, it turned out to be complete BS. And the Democrats are projecting onto others what they are. They've always been the racist people. They've always been the demagogues. They've always been the people who use hate, hostility, and violence. And the demagogues stoke the mob to go after their political enemies, because that has been historically how the Democrats run. I'm going too long on this story. Let's go to the next story. Oops. Sorry about that. Next article from Breitbart. San Francisco mayor declares a state of emergency in Tenderloin district. Oops. Sorry. We'll redo that again. This next article from Breitbart. San Francisco mayor has declared a state of emergency in the Tenderloin district. San Francisco Mayor London Breed has declared the state of emergency on Friday in the Tenderloin district, a notoriously crime-ridden area near Market Street, the broad thoroughfare that cuts through the heart of downtown area. If you walk down this area, what you're going to find is a whole bunch of home bums camping out on the side of the street in tents, banging cartel dope, taking shit all over the sidewalk. Now they're breaking into cars and where is that? Shoot. Where was that? Here, let me grab something real quick. Here we can see an image in San Francisco. The residents are leaving their car doors open because they're so tired of having their windows smashed that they are now leaving the car doors open. They're also leaving signs on the cars that say, "Please don't break my windows," because they stopped prosecuting petty crimes there in San Francisco, and now they have a crime epidemic. They opened up the borders. They were a sanctuary state. And so now they have an epidemic of cartels bringing in fentanyl, methamphetamines, cocaine, crack, ecstasy, LSD, research chemicals, along with a variety of barbiturates and other substances, possibly adrenochrome. And it's only going to get worse because as the homeless population explodes, thanks to the open borders causing all of the deadly fentanyl to come in, now the homeless population now is so large that now you need to get machines to suck all of the shit off the sidewalks from all these home bums that are banging cartel dope in the tents and taking shits on the sidewalk. Every block that you go, you're going to be smelling roses. You're going to have some drugged out home bum who's been twacked down on cartel dope, going from meth to heroin to crack in a cycle. And he's going to have some very, very fragrant stuff coming out of his other sides. And it's very profuse. That's how, the way that you know the good dope is in town is how bad the shit smells downtown San Francisco. You could tell what kind of drugs these people are on based on the shit smell when you're walking down the street. They're in San Francisco, the liberal epicenter. In this next article from Fox News, San Francisco Police Union mayor's crime crackdown is an acknowledgement that defund the police was a mistake. Initiatives announced by San Francisco mayor to address the crime and open-air drug dealing, the overdoses, the bums taking shits on sidewalks. They were met with praise by the city's police union and cautious optimism from others. Here, this next article from Fox News. Gavin Newsom's plan to stop California's smash and grab thefts, $300 million for local law enforcement. California Governor Newsom on Friday proposed spending more than $300 million to help law enforcement and small businesses address the recent rash of high-profile smash and grab thefts. You've probably seen the videos where they've got 80 of these people smashing all the windows in the stores downtown and grabbing everything, all the luxury bags, all the iPhones and iPads and laptops. And they're also, too, going up to cars where people are in their cars and smashing their windows out and jacking their stuff while people are in the car. This is a normal, everyday occurrence in San Francisco. It's just par for the course. Here in this next article from Breitbart, Mexican cops raid a Cancun motel used for underage sex trade. State authorities raided a motel being used for sex trafficking of underage girls in Cancun. The motel was a short distance from the main tourist district. This next article from Fox News. Drug cartels are flooding the U.S. with fentanyl pills that could kill you, DEA warns. The DEA is sounding an alarm on fentanyl as it is raising the stakes in the illegal drug trade. The cartels were actually making more money smuggling humans across the border. And then when the humans get across the border, they end up getting put into drug houses where, because they were smuggled across by the cartel. So now their allegiances are to the cartel because they owe them money, and they also need a place to stay. So a large percentage of these illegal migrants will end up going to dope houses where they will sit on large stashes of fentanyl, methamphetamines, crack, cocaine, and other very dangerous drugs. And then they will wait for some number of months in order for the heat to cool off. And then they will distribute these narcotics in the country. The last I heard was that the cartels are bringing in enough fentanyl to kill every person in America every single month. So I don't know about you, but that's very worrying to me, especially where they're getting the chemicals. The Chinese Communist Party is allowing their businesses to give these cartels the precursor chemicals to make fentanyl, methamphetamine, and a host of other drugs. And they are also laundering money with the cartels. So there's been about 2 million migrants that have flooded across the border so far this year. Now these migrants are allied with the cartels. The Democrats have have convinced these people that there are white supreme pizzas who are racist against Latinos, and that they have to blow blue no matter who, because the Democrats are going to give them handouts. They are going to give them socialism so that their kids will get hooked on government handouts as long as you vote for Democrats. And because of the open borders, now their kids are going to be selling narcotics for the cartels. They mass migrated here to get away from the cartels, the drug dealers. And then when they got here, what they ended up with was communism and cartels. And now their kids are doing the same kind of criminal activity that they were doing in the country before they left. So there's no change. All they've done now is brought in millions of people who are allied with the cartel, told them that there's these white supreme pizzas that think they're racially superior and that they're coming after you. And so you need to vote for the demon rats so that you can get the government handouts so that your kids can be permanently at the bottom of the social hierarchy because of the mass flood of migrants with low skills, and that you should vote for Joe Biden because somehow, like, a sane, rational person would do. Apparently, these white people do this. These white people are crazy, dude. They're like, they're radical feminists. I myself, before I got red pilled, I also too used to be a radical feminist, and I also too bought this line that women were underpaid. And then I didn't do any research. I just assumed like, okay, yeah, right. Like the women have been like oppressed for so long, and that the white people like lynched these black people and they brutalized them. There was Jim Crow, and that they enslaved Africa. And because that's what they told me in the public schools. That's what the history classes said. But the reality was that a large percentage of what they said was not true. Women control 85% of the US market, and they hold 2/3 of wealth in the US. And the same goes in the West. Same trend is going in Europe. So these people, they're convinced that they're underpaid. So the white feminists are supporting the open borders because they're saying that the white supreme pizzas are these big bad misogynist guys, that they put the glass ceiling over the women's heads. They're making them wear burqas. They're raping them. They're beating them. They're treating them badly. They won't let them vote. They won't let them go to school. They won't let them work a job. And so you need to go out and race riot with the Democrats and the black looter mob because they need equality. And then what ends up happening is that the white feminists end up putting off having a kid until their 30s so they could rise up the corporate ladder. And then their kids don't get enough of their mom, and then they get hooked on fentanyl, and now their kids are overdosing on drugs and dying. And next thing you know, they didn't have enough kids to keep their family line alive, and then their family line dies off. I'm going too long in the story here. Moving on to the next story from Breitbart. Bronovich, China is intentionally contributing to the U.S. drug crisis to undermine our country. On Friday broadcasts of the Fox News channel's America's Newsroom, Arizona Attorney General and Republican Senator candidate Mark Bronovich said the drug precursors were used by the cartels to ... I was just talking about that a moment ago. China is trying to be the world's #1 superpower, and they have been supplying the cartels with the chemical precursors to make this deadly fentanyl drug that is killing almost 100,000 people. You know, below the average age of death, there's a little bit more than 100,000 deaths from COVID per year. So the number of COVID deaths under the average age of death is approximately the same as the number of people who are dying from fentanyl overdoses per year, which is also approximately equal to the number of people who die from alcohol each year. So I'm not really 100% sure that you can actually make the claim that the fentanyl is actually more deadly than the alcohol, but there's way more people drinking alcohol. I think that's the difference there, is that even though there's about the same amount of people dying from fentanyl and alcohol, the fentanyl is just way more damaging. I have a number of friends who've died from it. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm doing this show is that a large number of my friends died from fentanyl overdoses. And I don't really have a lot of close friends left anymore. The ones that I did, I'm in Eugene, Oregon, where people are very liberal, and they turned on me whenever I woke up, learned most of the stuff that I was supporting was bozo. I never looked into it. I myself used to be pro-open borders. I thought that these Republicans were white supreme pizzas because they were trying to build a race wall. I, in fact, even helped start one of the big protests, anti-Trump protests in 2016, because I swore that Donald Trump was a misogynist, that he was trying to, because he said he was the woman wanted to grab her by the pussy, and he was building a race wall. And that he was a Russian agent, that he was working for Putin. And I got these ideas from the Criminal News Network, CNN, and MSDNC, aka MSNBC. And they turned out to be complete bunk. Turns out that illegal immigration not only is disastrous, but that the Latinos also too don't support it, because the Latinos don't want their kids selling dope for the cartel because they can't get a job, because they just flooded the place with a mass number of Latino mass migrants and the Haitians. And now they need a place to go. They need jobs, but the jobs can't employ illegal migrants. So what are they going to do? They sell dope. 50% of federal drug trafficking convictions are against Latinos. 30% of them are illegal immigrants. Or so I guess you could say in this context, illegal aliens. So there's a very clear link between illegal immigration and narcotics distribution, specifically because the illegal immigrants can't work. Now, I personally believe that we should be taking advantage of the economic opportunity of the cheap migrant labor. Migrants should be able to come to the United States to work for cheap. We shouldn't have a minimum wage. The migrants should be able to go back home. And then we should be able to revoke that status if they're engaging in any sort of drug trade. What we want to do with our immigration policy and our migration policy is that we want to specifically set it up in order to prevent the cartels from taking over, because the Latinos absolutely, definitely, they're not like trying to take over the U.S. It's not like their intention. It's not like they're like seeing that the white man is aging and their population's going down and they're like, yeah, let's go take their land. That's not the way it is. They're coming for opportunity, right? That means that that they're willing to work hard. So we need to take advantage of this because we need to compete with China. And we need to secure our border because the white people are turning into a minority. And when this happens, they do not have a supermajority anymore. And people will be fighting for control over the United States. Now that the cartels have a deep grip in our country, they can, the cartels can, the mass migrants have allegiances to the cartels, and the cartels then have military weapons from all of the narcotics that they've been selling and the humans that they've been smuggling. And this creates a national security concern. Not only that, we now also, it's causing Latinos to become a permanent underclass. They are now known as being the lawn maintenance race. And people really like their Latino lawn maintenance people. But that's the thing, is we can only absorb so many people at one time. I think this is the most amount of migration that the world has ever seen at this point in time. I think there's been some records breaking. I don't remember which records they broke exactly, but it is record breaking mass migration, even all throughout the world, because basically they said they're paying them to migrate here because the Democrats are trying to pack the vote. They're trying to pack the electorate. They want to get the Latino kids hooked on socialism, so they'll vote blue no matter who. All you got to do is tell them that there's white supreme pizzas that are trying to oppress them, and that the Democrats are trying to fight these people. This is the enemy. And then if you vote for the Democrats, they'll give you handouts and you'll get addicted to socialism. And then once that happens, now you'll be hating white people. So you'll be an anti-white racist communist. At that point, obviously the Latinos don't want to do this. I mean, this is bozo, right? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know that this is bozo. Moving on in this next article here from Newsweek, video shows cops pulling a woman from a sinking car after driving into a ravine. Here is the video. Oops. What's going on? Oh. Right. It's the wrong desktop. Here, let me here we can see the video of the car. Now the cop is saving the woman out of the car. And just for the record, police or people usually don't save people. It's usually the cops that are saving the people. Got to throw in a little bit of humanity in. There's been too much of this. Sorry. Too much of this anti-white racism, too much of these people sharing police brutality content on Facebook because they're getting likes, they're organizing scam donation things for like the Black Looter mob, or they're trying to push their political agenda, and there's not enough of people showing the good stuff that the cops do or whenever they get killed, because it is quite frequently that the police are getting shot at, they're getting killed, and nobody is thanking them at all. Here in this next... Sorry. Here in this next article from Fox News, Harris says Biden administration failed to see either Delta or the Z variant coming, report. President Kamala Harris says that the Vice President Joe Beijing Biden foresaw neither the Delta nor the Z variant. And that's because they are working with the Chinese in order to bring you the final variant, which is the communist variant. And when you are exposed to the communist variant, what you're going to see is that people slowly start to get addicted to government handouts. People will start hating the upper class. They will start using rhetoric that is identical to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, where they'll start saying that there's this group of bad people who control the world. They don't like your people. They only share with their people. It's us versus them. They're bad people, and they're utilizing capitalism in order to get money to take what you deserve. And what they'll do is the demagogues will then amp up the hatred, and they will slowly turn people against each other until they are fighting. And so the communist variant of the virus is where people are so addicted to government handouts. They're so brainwashed by the propaganda. They're so afraid of the Z variant that they start treating the Republicans as if they are subhuman, as if they are not clean, as if they are beneath the standards of the Democrats. And it really reeks of anti-Semitism. Through and through, the entire thing is an exact parallel to anti-Semitism, where they're saying that there's this group of people that control the world. Now, people think, these Democrats think that the Republicans control big businesses. They think Republicans control big tech because the Republicans like wear suits because they're conservative. This is how bozo these leftists are. There's no logic to what these people are saying. It's all just pure, like failed public schools combined with a game of telephone where some people heard some stuff in school and then they don't have a good memory. And so these memories will then evolve from whatever sound, like in the school, it wasn't completely 100% bozo. It was bozo probably. But then once you get the game of telephone going, once you get enough idiots saying a bunch of stuff, next thing you know, it's gone completely bozo. And so that's what you're going to see in the communist variant. It's coming. If you think that the teachers union is bozo today, wait, just give it a little bit of time. The craziness in the public schools is going to amp up because it's like a battle where there's two sides and they came out and they fought and everybody was scared going up into the battle and they started killing each other and everybody's like shitting their pants and running and they're shooting the retreaters. And then people start dying and then people start to get really angry. They start blaming the other side for killing their friend. Next thing you know, everybody wants to kill each other. So this is the ultimate phase of the communist variant of COVID, is the mass panic and the targeting of a specific group of people as being unclean, identically to how the communists and the Nazis targeted Jews in World War II by saying that they were not clean people, that they were beneath the standards of the German people. And anything else here? Moving on to this next article from Newsweek. Missouri schools must obey state's ban on COVID mandates or face losing funding. Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick started requiring schools to comply with AG Eric Schmidt's warning in exchange for refinancing their bond debt. See, there's a problem with this, okay? Now, we're gonna put on our legal hat here for a second. We're going to go into common law land, and we're going to look at this court case called
Player is activated.
Schrocksville v. Granville. And so there's this court case. It's a landmark court case. This is involving third-party child visitation. And in this court case, here it says Washington Rev Code Section 226.10.160 permits, quote, any persons, end quote, to petition for visitation rights at, quote, any time, end quote, and authorizes state superior courts to grant such rights whether the visitation may serve in the child's best interest. Petitioners Troxel petition for the right to visit their deceased son's daughters. Respondent Granville, the girl's mother, did not oppose all visitation but objected to the amount that were sought by the Troxels. Superior Court ordered more visitation than the Granvilles desired, and she appealed. The state court of appeals reversed and dismissed the Troxels' petition. In affirming, the state Supreme Court held intra alia that Section 160 subsection 3 unconstitutionally infringes on parents' fundamental right to rear their children, reasoning that federal constitution permits a state to interfere with this right only to prevent harm or potential harm to the child. It's found that Section 2610-160 subsection 3 does not require a threshold showing of harm and sweeps too broadly by permitting any person to petition any time, with only the requirement being that the visitation serve in the best interest of the child. So the justices concluded that Section 2610-160, as applied to Granville and her family, violates her due process right to make decisions concerning the care, custody, and control of her daughters. Okay, so what this is saying is that you've got a First Amendment right. That First Amendment right is set in stone, but the state can abridge the right through use of clear and convincing evidence because there is due process, okay? And in that due process, they got to show that if the state does not act, that there's going to be detrimental harm to the child and that the state has no other option other than acting. So this is what the state is trying to say, is that they're trying to say that they have a compelling reason why the state is acting. So essentially what the state is doing is they're getting custody of your child here to teach them critical race theory and teach them to hate white people by having Black History Month and doing a whole month where they go over how racist white people are. And then they're going to put masks on your kid, and then they're going to isolate them. They're not going to allow them to contact other kids. And so the kids are going to be emotionally traumatized. And so the state needs to show with clear and convincing evidence that they are acting in the children's best interest. The state can't just violate your constitutional rights. here we could see under Troxel that it's very clear that they said there's due process. The Fourth Amendment's due process clause has substantial component that, quote, provides heightened protection against government interference with certain fundamental rights and liberty interests, end quote. So one of these is your medical autonomy. You have a right to the care and control of your children, meaning you also have the right to care and control of yourself. So in order for the government to abridge your First Amendment right, they got to go through the 14th Amendment. Did I say fourth? I'm sorry. I misspoke earlier. This is the 14th Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is the procedural due process. The 14th Amendment is the substantive due process. So what this is saying is that the state can abridge your First Amendment right, but they have a evidence hurdle they have to show, which is clear and convincing. So what does that mean? It means that the state needs to show that not only are these detrimental circumstances exist, but the state has to act for this specific reason. It's not just now, and if it's in a preponderance of the evidence, the state is going to only need to show that more than likely this is true, which basically means they get anything that just about anything that they want within reason. They did not do this with the COVID restrictions, and it's because the COVID restrictions are based on pre-Troxel laws. And because they're based on pre-Troxel laws, they're subject to the court re-examining them, which means that more than likely these COVID restrictions are not constitutional because they have not jumped through the process. In order to jump through the process, what they would need to do is they would need to have a process. And in that process, they would have to have an evidentiary hearing. During that evidentiary hearing, the public has a right to testify, add documents, just like they would in a court hearing. That did not happen. It didn't happen. It certifiably didn't happen. You can read I am 100% right here. This is the law. You do have a First Amendment right. I'm not crazy, right? There is a First Amendment right to free speech. If the state wants to take that right, the state has to go through a process in order to take that right. The state can't just say, more than likely this is true based on whatever evidence we saw. They have to go through the hurdles saying this is happening. There's a detrimental circumstance and the state has no other option to act. And at that point in time, you're going to see, well, the state does have an option, and it's called natural selection and natural immunity, herd immunity. Let her rip. It is an option. And it's completely speculative as to whether or not you need to do anything because it's not high enough death rate. It's just not. It's a matter of opinion. And at that point in time, then, since it's a matter of opinion, then we have to say no to it. I'm going to move on to this